There is something deeply challenging about waiting, when you cannot see evidence that anything is changing. Human nature craves visible progress. We want signs that our prayers are being answered. We want proof that our efforts matter. We want reassurance that the future holds something better than the present. When those signs fail to appear, discouragement can quietly settle into the heart. Many people mistakenly assume that silence means inactivity. They conclude that because they cannot see movement, nothing is moving. They interpret delayed answers as absent answers. They view hidden seasons as wasted seasons. Yet some of the most important work God performs happens completely outside the range of human observation. The greatest miracles often begin long before anyone recognizes them. The opportunity that eventually transforms a person's life usually starts as an unseen process. God begins arranging circumstances, aligning details, opening unseen doors, and preparing future connections while everything on the surface appears unchanged. This reality requires faith because faith is often asked to trust what it cannot yet verify. Imagine standing in a field after planting seeds. Day after day you return and see nothing. The soil appears unchanged. There is no visible evidence that life exists beneath the surface. If you judged the situation only by what your eyes could see, you might conclude that the seed was ineffective, but beneath the ground, an invisible process is taking place. Roots are stretching, life is forming, growth is occurring in secret. The hidden development is not less important than the visible harvest. In fact, it is the very reason the harvest will eventually appear. God frequently works the same way in the lives of His children. While they worry about what they cannot see, He is actively preparing what they cannot yet imagine. While they focus on present limitations, He is arranging future possibilities. While they wonder whether their prayers are being heard, He is already setting events into motion. One reason waiting becomes difficult is because modern culture celebrates immediate results. People are taught to expect quick answers, rapid progress, and instant gratification. Yet God's timing rarely conforms to human impatience. He understands that lasting blessings often require extended preparation. A blessing received too early can become a burden rather than a gift. An opportunity received before a person is ready can create problems instead of success. God knows this. He understands not only what He plans to give, but also when it should be given. Many believers pray for greater opportunities without realizing that God is first preparing them to handle those opportunities. They ask for influence while He develops character. They ask for promotion while He teaches humility. They ask for greater responsibility while He strengthens wisdom. This preparation is often invisible. Others may not notice it. Sometimes even the individual experiencing it fails to recognize what God is doing. Yet every lesson, every challenge, every delay, and every season of growth contributes to a larger purpose. There are moments when people become frustrated because their lives do not appear to be progressing as quickly as the lives of others. They compare journeys, they compare achievements, they compare timelines. They wonder why certain opportunities seem to arrive easily for other people, while their own path feels slow. Comparison creates unnecessary discouragement because it ignores an important truth. God is preparing each person according to a unique purpose. Different callings require different forms of preparation. Different assignments require different experiences. What appears to be delay may actually be customized preparation for something greater. The chosen individuals often experience extended periods of hidden growth because the opportunities ahead require unusual maturity. God knows what is coming. He sees future challenges, future responsibilities, and future influence. Because he sees these things, he invests time preparing his children before revealing the opportunities themselves. During these hidden seasons, it is easy to feel overlooked. It is easy to wonder whether your efforts matter. You may remain faithful without receiving recognition. You may continue trusting without seeing results. You may keep moving forward while wondering if anyone notices. God notices. Nothing escapes his attention. Every act of faithfulness matters. Every decision to trust him matters. Every moment of perseverance matters. Even when others fail to recognize your growth, God sees it clearly. One of the enemy's most effective strategies is convincing believers that hidden seasons are useless seasons. He wants them to become impatient. He wants them to abandon hope. He wants them to believe that because success is not visible, success is not coming. Yet hidden seasons often become the foundation for visible victories. The strength developed in private becomes essential in public. The lessons learned during obscurity become valuable during promotion. The character formed during waiting becomes necessary when greater opportunities arrive. Many people want the blessing without the preparation. They want the opportunity without the growth. They want the outcome without the process. But God understands that preparation protects his children. It equips them to sustain what they receive. Consider how often people look back on life and realize that blessings arrived at exactly the right time. At first, they wanted those blessings sooner. They questioned delays. They became frustrated by waiting. Yet later, they recognized that earlier success would have found them unprepared. God's timing is not random. It is intentional. He sees what human beings cannot see. He understands what they do not yet understand. He knows when preparation has accomplished its purpose. The doubters often struggle to understand this because they evaluate life according to visible evidence alone. They see current circumstances and assume those circumstances define future possibilities. They focus on what appears impossible while ignoring the power of God. But God's plans are not limited by current appearances. He is not restricted by present conditions. He is not confined by human expectations. While others are calculating probabilities, he is creating possibilities. This is why some of God's greatest blessings appear sudden to outside observers. People say the opportunity came out of nowhere. They describe the breakthrough as unexpected. They assume the success happened overnight. What they fail to see is that God's preparation had been unfolding for months, years, or even decades. The visible opportunity was simply the final stage of a much longer process. The blessing appeared suddenly, but the preparation was gradual. Believers who understand this truth approach waiting differently. They stop treating hidden seasons as wasted seasons. They stop measuring God's faithfulness according to visible evidence. They stop assuming that silence means absence. Instead, they begin trusting that God remains active even when they cannot see proof. They believe that preparation is taking place beneath the surface. They recognize that today's uncertainty may be laying the foundation for tomorrow's opportunity. There is tremendous peace in knowing that your future does not depend entirely upon what you can currently see. God is working beyond your vision. He is arranging circumstances beyond your control. He is opening doors you do not yet know exist. He is preparing opportunities that will eventually reveal why the waiting was necessary, why the delays were purposeful, why the silence was meaningful, and why every hidden season was an essential part of the greater blessing He was preparing to place into your hands. One of the most remarkable patterns throughout life is that God often works in ways that completely overturn human expectations. People naturally evaluate situations according to what appears logical, probable, and realistic. They calculate possibilities based on visible resources, current circumstances, and past experiences. If something seems unlikely, they assume it will never happen. If a situation appears impossible, they conclude that it cannot change, yet God has never been limited by human calculations. The problem is that many people unknowingly allow the opinions of others to shape their expectations. They hear doubt repeatedly until they begin doubting themselves. They listen to predictions of failure until they start expecting failure. They become surrounded by voices that focus on limitations rather than possibilities. The doubters rarely intend to destroy hope. Most simply speak according to what they can see. They examine present circumstances and draw conclusions. If resources are limited, they expect limited outcomes. If obstacles are significant, they predict defeat. If progress is slow, they assume nothing important is happening. What they fail to understand is that God often works beyond visible evidence. His plans are not restricted by what others can observe. He does not depend upon favorable conditions to accomplish his purposes. He is fully capable of creating opportunities that exceed every human expectation. This truth becomes especially important during seasons when circumstances appear discouraging. There are moments when life provides little evidence that something extraordinary is approaching. The future seems ordinary, opportunities seem distant, answers seem delayed. During such seasons, it becomes easy to adopt the mindset of the doubters. You begin wondering whether your hopes are unrealistic. You question whether your prayers are too ambitious. You ask yourself whether you should simply lower your expectations and settle for less. Yet faith invites believers to see beyond current circumstances. Faith is not blind optimism. It is confidence in God's character. It is the belief that his power exceeds human limitations. It is the understanding that he can accomplish things far beyond what people naturally expect. Many of the greatest blessings in life arrive unexpectedly. They emerge from situations that appeared hopeless. They develop through circumstances that seemed insignificant. They arise at moments when people had almost given up looking for them. This is one reason God's blessings often shock observers. The observers were focusing on present conditions. God was preparing future outcomes. Imagine someone standing at the edge of a vast landscape while only seeing a few feet ahead. Their conclusions would be limited because their vision is limited. They would judge possibility according to the small portion they could observe. Human beings often approach life the same way. They evaluate their future according to what they can currently see. If opportunities are absent today, they assume opportunities will remain absent tomorrow. If answers have not arrived yet, they assume answers are not coming. God's perspective is entirely different. He sees the complete picture. He understands how today's events connect to future blessings. He knows which opportunities are developing. He knows which doors are opening. He knows which relationships, circumstances, and moments will eventually align. Because he sees what people cannot see, his plans frequently surpass their expectations. The challenge is maintaining faith during the period between promise and fulfillment. This period often becomes the testing ground for belief. It is where doubts attempt to grow. It is where discouragement seeks to take root. It is where people must decide whether they will trust God's promises or surrender to appearances. Many blessings are delayed not because God is unwilling, but because preparation is still taking place. The opportunity may be ready, but the person may need further growth. The door may exist, but the timing may not yet be right. God understands details that remain hidden from human understanding. This is why believers must resist the temptation to define their future according to present conditions. Current circumstances are temporary. God's purposes are eternal. What appears impossible today may become reality tomorrow. The doubters often assume that their conclusions are facts. They speak with confidence because they trust what they see. Yet history repeatedly demonstrates that human certainty is frequently wrong when God becomes involved. Again and again, people have witnessed situations transform in ways they never anticipated. Opportunities emerged where none seemed possible. Resources appeared when they were needed most. Doors opened after years of remaining closed. Lives changed in ways that exceeded every prediction. These moments remind believers that God's power operates beyond human expectations. One of the reasons God allows certain blessings to exceed expectations is because He wants people to recognize His hand in the process. If every outcome could be explained entirely by human effort, many would overlook His involvement. But when blessings arrive that clearly surpass human calculations, His faithfulness becomes undeniable. There are seasons when believers feel overlooked while others appear to advance. They watch opportunities pass by. They observe doors opening for other people. They wonder whether their own breakthrough will ever come. What they do not realize is that God is not comparing journeys. He is not following human timelines. He is not measuring success according to public recognition. He is preparing each individual according to a unique purpose. The blessing prepared for you does not need to resemble the blessing prepared for someone else. God's plans are personal. His timing is intentional. His purposes are specific. This understanding protects believers from envy and comparison. Instead of focusing on what others are receiving, they learn to trust what God is preparing. They recognize that His plans for their lives remain active even when they are not yet visible. Another reason blessings often exceed expectations is because human imagination is limited. People tend to pray according to what they can conceive. They ask for opportunities that fit within their understanding. They seek outcomes that seem achievable. Yet God is not restricted by human imagination. He can provide opportunities that never crossed your mind. He can create solutions you never considered. He can arrange circumstances that exceed your greatest expectations. When those moments arrive, they often leave people speechless. What seemed impossible becomes reality. What appeared unlikely becomes obvious. What once existed only in faith becomes visible. The doubters are surprised because they base their conclusions on appearances. Believers rejoice because they based their confidence on God. This does not mean every blessing arrives exactly as expected. In fact, many of God's greatest gifts arrive in unexpected forms. They may differ from original assumptions. They may exceed previous plans. They may unfold through surprising circumstances. Yet, when the blessing finally appears, one truth becomes clear. God was never limited by the doubts, predictions, criticisms, or calculations of other people. While others focused on obstacles, He was preparing opportunities. While others expected failure, He was arranging success. While others saw impossibilities, He saw possibilities. And when His plan finally unfolds, it reveals that His wisdom is greater than human understanding. His power is greater than human limitations, and His blessings are capable of exceeding every expectation that once seemed impossible. One of the greatest distractions that can pull a person away from their purpose is the constant need to explain themselves to people who have already decided not to believe. Many individuals spend years trying to gain approval from doubters, trying to justify their decisions, and trying to convince others that God is leading them in a particular direction. The unfortunate reality is that no amount of explanation will satisfy someone who is determined to see only what they already believe. This is why faith requires a shift in focus. Instead of dedicating your energy to convincing others, you must dedicate your energy to obeying God. Your assignment is not to win every argument. Your assignment is not to gain universal approval. Your assignment is not to make everyone understand your journey. Your responsibility is to remain faithful to the direction God has placed before you. There will always be people who question what God is doing in your life. Some will doubt your vision. Some will criticize your decisions. Some will misunderstand your motives. Others may even mock your expectations. They may look at your circumstances and conclude that your faith is misplaced. They may examine your current reality and insist that nothing significant is going to happen. The temptation is to stop everything and defend yourself. Human nature wants to be understood. It wants validation. It wants acceptance. When people question us, we instinctively feel the need to explain why they are wrong. Yet one of the greatest lessons of spiritual maturity is learning that not everyone needs an explanation. Some people will only understand your journey after God reveals the outcome. Until then, no amount of reasoning will change their perspective. They are evaluating your future according to present appearances. God is evaluating your future according to His purpose. There is a profound difference between those two perspectives. Human beings often focus on visible evidence. They look at current resources, current opportunities, and current limitations. Their conclusions are based on what they can observe. If they cannot see how something will happen, they assume it cannot happen. God does not operate within those limitations. He sees possibilities where people see obstacles. He sees provision where people see lack. He sees victory where people see defeat. Because His perspective is greater, His plans frequently appear unrealistic to those who rely solely on human understanding. This creates a challenge for believers. Will you trust God's perspective or the opinions of people? Many individuals never fully step into their calling because they become trapped by the need for approval. They wait for everyone to agree before moving forward. They seek permission from people who were never assigned to direct their lives. They postpone obedience until the doubters become supporters. The problem is that support often arrives after obedience, not before it. People tend to believe results more easily than promises. They celebrate outcomes that they once questioned. They praise victories they once doubted. They support journeys they previously criticized. If you spend your life waiting for everyone to believe in you, you may never take the steps God is asking you to take. Faithful obedience requires moving forward even when understanding is limited. It requires trusting God's direction even when support is absent. It requires believing His promises even when circumstances appear contradictory. This does not mean becoming arrogant or ignoring wise counsel. Wisdom remains important. God often speaks through trusted individuals. Healthy advice should never be dismissed simply because it challenges us. The issue is not wise counsel. The issue is allowing fear of criticism to override obedience. There are times when God asks people to take steps that seem unusual to others. The direction may not make sense immediately. The opportunity may appear uncertain. The timing may seem strange. Yet God's guidance is not determined by public opinion. Many believers waste valuable energy trying to prove themselves. They constantly explain, defend, and justify every decision. They become so focused on responding to critics that they neglect the work God actually called them to do. Imagine a runner stopping every few steps to argue with spectators. No matter how convincing the arguments may be, progress would slow dramatically. The runner's success depends upon continuing the race, not persuading every observer. Life often works the same way. Progress comes through faithful action, not endless explanation. The doubters are rarely the ones responsible for your calling. God did not place your destiny in their hands. He did not assign them authority over your purpose. Their opinions may be loud, but they are not ultimate. One reason God allows doubters to remain in our lives is because they teach us where our confidence truly rests. If our confidence depends entirely on human approval, criticism will destroy our momentum. But if our confidence rests in God, criticism loses much of its power. The chosen individuals often experience seasons where few people understand what God is doing. Those seasons test their commitment. Will they remain faithful when recognition is absent? Will they continue obeying when encouragement is limited? Will they trust God when visible evidence is scarce? These questions reveal the depth of faith. Faith is easy when everyone agrees. Faith becomes powerful when obedience continues, despite opposition. There are moments when God intentionally keeps his plans hidden. He does not reveal every detail to everyone around you. He allows certain things to remain private because he is teaching you to rely on him rather than external validation. During those seasons, it may feel lonely. You may wonder why others cannot see what you see. You may become frustrated by misunderstandings. Yet those experiences often develop spiritual strength. They teach believers to seek God's approval above all else. The remarkable thing is that when God's plans finally become visible, explanations become unnecessary. The results speak for themselves. The opportunities appear, the doors open, the blessings arrive. The very people who doubted begin asking questions they once mocked, but by that point, your focus has already changed. You are no longer obsessed with proving yourself. You are simply grateful for God's faithfulness. There is tremendous freedom in understanding that you do not need to convince everyone. You do not need to defend every dream. You do not need to explain every step of faith. Some things are better demonstrated through obedience than discussed through arguments. God never called his children to spend their lives managing the opinions of others. He called them to trust him. He called them to follow his direction. He called them to remain faithful, regardless of external reactions. The future he has prepared for you will not be determined by the people who doubt you. It will not be controlled by critics, skeptics, or negative voices. It will be shaped by your willingness to obey God when obedience is difficult, to trust him when answers are delayed, and to continue moving forward when others cannot yet understand what he is preparing. Your responsibility is not to convince the doubters that God is working. Your responsibility is to walk faithfully with God until his work becomes impossible for anyone to deny.